OK. Donc, sans plus tarder, donc, je vais passer la parole à M. Asfoua pour présenter son papier donc, dont le thème est Energy Development and Industrialization, Evidence in from Africa. And welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Admas Asfoua Maruta. Okay, so this is the outline of my presentation, so I'm not gonna go through with it. So first, I will be providing like a brief background context about energy development. So it is known that the development of energy is crucial for industrialization, driving economic growth and technological advancement. And industries rely on consistent and affordable energy supply for complex manufacturing process. So this has been acknowledged by many international development partners. For example, the UN Sustainable Development Goal 7 aims for universal access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy by 2013 to promote industrialization and economic growth. With regard to the African context, so energy production has tremendously increased during 1990 to 2017. And a substantial amount of investment has been conducted by several international development organizations like the African Development Bank, the World Bank, and other development partners in the priority areas, including solar, wind, hydroelectricity, and geothermal energy. And the African Union, in its Agenda 2063, aims to transform Africa from traditional to modern source of energy and ensure access of all Africans to clean and affordable electricity. So similarly, the African Development Bank pledged to invest in cross-border electricity interconnections to enhance connectivity and promote cross-border trade in electricity. So this has important implications for the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. When we look at the energy consumption, it has also tremendously increased during the same period, and it is expected to increase by 2013, particularly in the industry and transportation sectors. So although the energy development has tremendous importance for the African economy and industrialization, there is a limit or a gap in the literature because there are few studies that examine the role of energy development for promoting industrialization, particularly in the context of Africa, that this research tries to fill this important gap in the literature. So I'm not gonna go through each studies conducted on the role of or examining the role of energy development on industrialization. So there are many studies that has been done to examine the role of energy development to economic growth and development. And there are also many studies that examine the role of energy development for promoting health and living standards. So these are some of the papers that affirm the positive impact of energy development on health, education, and living standard outcomes. So considering these gaps in the literature, I come up with two important research questions. The first one is energy development significant for industrialization in Africa? If yes, what is the impact? And the second question is, do the dimensions of energy development have varying effects on industrialization? If so, which dimensions of energy development has a positive or significant impact on the level of industrialization in Africa? So to address these two important research questions, so I collected data on various variables. So the first one is industrialization. So to measure industrialization, I collected data, or I use manufacturing value added as a percentage of GDP to measure the level of industrialization in Africa. So there are many arguments or reasons to use manufacturing value added to measure industrialization, like this one. And I obtained the data for this variable from the World Development Indicators. So to measure the level of the energy development, I constructed a multidimensional energy development index by considering 4 important energy development indicators. The first one is total primary energy use per capita, electric power consumption, renewable energy consumption, and the fourth one is access to electricity. So I created a geometric mean of these four important energy indicators. And the energy development index, the index varies between 0 and 1. So 0 is the lowest value and 1 is the highest value. The data for each indicator is obtained from the World Development Indicator. So I also collected data on various variables that has potential impact on industrialization. The first one is real GDP. To measure the level of institutional quality, I constructed an index that is called the governance index. It has around five indicators. And I use domestic credit to private sector to measure the financial sector development. I also captured education variables, trade variables, and also the flow of capital, that is foreign direct investment. So this is the summary statistics of the variables that I considered in the study. And I created a scatter plot of the industrialization and energy. As you can see, the two variables have a strong correlation, suggesting that energy development plays important role to promote industrialization in Africa. So with regard to the empirical specification, so I specified the model like this one. So that is industrialization as a function of energy development and other control variables that I mentioned before. So I'm not gonna go through with each variables. So
you have 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay. So I run the specification using different estimation strategies using OLS, fixed effect, and random effect. So as you can see, energy development has significant and positive effect on industrialization. Comparing the dimensions of energy development, access to electricity has a higher positive effect compared to energy use. So access matters more in terms of promoting industrialization in Africa. So I run the specification using instrumental variable for the energy development index, that is nighttime light data. So the results are consistent. That is, energy development has positive effect on industrialization, and access has higher positive impact on industrialization. So the results are consistent across different estimation strategies like system JMM, using different measures of industrialization, that is manufacturing export as a percentage of GDP, using alternative measures for energy development, that is energy efficiency. So as you can see, the role of or the impact of energy development index on industrialization is positive and significant, and access matters more in all specification. So with regard to the conclusion, the study shows that energy development has positive and significant impact on industrialization. Access also matters for industrialization as compared to the use of energy. And based on the findings, I come up with these policy recommendations. So the first one is to enhance access to electricity, promote renewable energy integration, strengthen cross-border collaboration. This has a potential impact for the African continental free trade area. And the fourth one is prioritize industrial energy efficiency. And the last one is regular monitoring and evaluation energy development based on the energy development index, and also identify the countries which need specific interventions and allocate resources accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's the end of it. Sorry, I was rushing just to
No, thank you.
cope
Thank
with
you.
the time.
No, thank you very much. This was clear. And thank you. Yeah. Now we will move to the presentation of the paper number 12 by Regan Mugweme, please.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I'm here to make a presentation on delivering double wins. How can Africa's finance deliver industrialization and clean energy transition? It's important to note that I conducted this research with a colleague at the Economic Policy Research Center by the names of Enoch Bulime. So the presentation is as follows. Let me go, in the interest of time, let me go straight to introduction. We see that except during the COVID pandemic, the region of Sub-Saharan Africa has been experiencing steady economic growth, and this growth is averaged at 4.4% annually, except during the pandemic where we declined. Now, economic growth means that we need more energy. There's demand for energy, of course, alongside the rapid growing population and industrialization. And that means, that brings me to another question: what kind of energy are we consuming as a region? And we see that fossil fuels account for 43% of the energy demand, and we do not consume a lot of renewable energy. And that compromises sustainable development. Yes, we are making sustained economic growth, but in terms of sustainability, it's a big trade-off. So we see that whereas there is economic growth, we have got to use our environment in a sustainable manner. And so there is a twin policy challenge that policymakers are facing: achieving economic growth through industrialization alongside mitigating the effect of climate change. Now, that takes me to the real heart of this study. Because without economic growth and industrialization are driven by finance. At the same time, renewable energy investments are driven by finance. Unfortunately, we are seeing financial markets in Africa not developed, and they're highly risky. And so we come through this study to look at the effect of financial development on renewable energy transition in the least industrial countries and the developing industrial countries as classified by UNIDO. Now, our methodology looks at, unlike other past studies, our methodology looks at the financial development by looking at the multidimensional financial development index by the IMF. So we use this because it takes into account the financial efficiency and the financial depth, which are not captured by the other studies. Now, so the approach is as follows. We use a balanced panel data set for 20 countries over the period of 2000 and 2019, and we get our data from different sources as indicated. Now, we use also the fixed effects to measure the effect of financial development on renewable energy transition. And then also we look at, we classify the countries based on the manufacturing value added component. That is, in the interest of time, descriptive statistics. And we look at renewable energy from 2019, increasing, for example, from 9.6 index points to 12.3. So there is some progress. But we are also looking at indicators like financial development index, which is increasing, financial markets index, financial institutions. Why we broke down? Because we wanted to find out which components are driving renewable energy transition in light of industrialization. So when we use our fixed effects model, we find that, and we run different models, we find that financial development is positively related to renewable energy transition, and results are consistent for financial markets where you see FINDIV, that is financial development, then FMI, that's financial markets index, financial institutions index. So we see it is significant. And also we look at other indicators. Like, interestingly, we see date. Now, date is related on overall. This is a full sample. It is related to renewable energy transition. And then we also look at trade openness, and we see it has negative. And that could point to the fact that imports, the imports that we are getting from outside are fostering use of fossil fuels as opposed to renewable energy. So now, when we run the instrumental variable, because the previous results are suggestive, and these control for endogeneity, because there are cases of endogeneity where there's causal, there's reverse causality, where instead of financial development, it's the other way around, and still we see consistency. But here, when we control for different models, in the first column we have the full sample, in the second column we have developing. We find that, interestingly, financial development is not associated with renewable energy transition in developing industrial countries as opposed to least industrial countries. Now that means that when financial markets in the developing countries are not leading to renewable energy transition, actually, as opposed, the finance is going to fossil fuels, so which is an interesting finding. Now I will run, how much time do you have?
I think you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Now, another interesting finding is that debt is actually related in developing industrial countries, which are a bit better in terms of industry. Debt is actually fostering renewable energy transition in developing countries than least industrial countries. Developing industrial countries, which are a bit better, which means that probably these better countries, they have good public debt management as compared to the least ones. So that has a policy implication. And of course, trade across, we see that trade openness is negatively related to renewable energy transition. And when you look at we use the instrumental variable, and that variable we test for its validity, and it is valid through the Hansen test statistic. In conclusion, financial development is driven by mostly financial institutions as opposed to financial markets. And that is explained by poor and weak financial markets in the region. Now, another one is that public debt fosters renewable energy transition in developing industrial countries as opposed to least developed industrial countries. This could be an issue of public debt management. Trade openness is negatively associated with renewable energy transition. And why? Because most of our imports are not renewable energy in nature. They are not renewable. You find you are importing generators to fuel industries, and that is done at the expense of sustainable development. Recommendations. They are just 4. Based on our findings, we recommend that there should be public-private investments to further develop and promote innovative green finance market products. And of course, the entire space of financial markets, because we have seen that whereas financial institutions are the ones doing the renewable energy transition, the other financial markets, they're not related. And particularly, we encourage the increase in blended clean energy finance, because we have seen that loans, if you use them very well, loans are not bad. The problem is when you do not use them. So the accountability, probably the reason as to why we are not seeing that effect is because our institution in the the least industrial countries are not strong for transparency and accountability of public loans. And lastly, regarding trade openness, we encourage that governments promote importation of green energy products through subsidy programs as opposed to fossil fuel imports. And that includes, for example, just giving bringing a subsidy program on importation of electric cars, solar panels, instead of subsidizing fossil fuels like oils and generators and the like. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to you. Thank you. Now I would like to propose now maybe we to discuss the 2 first papers before moving to the 3 last presenters. I would like to ask Salami, who is going to be the discussant for the first paper, and my colleague Amadou Boli, who is a discussant for the second paper. First, Salami. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm discussing the first paper on energy development. I find the paper interesting. Without energy, industry cannot grow. Industrialization cannot happen in an environment to energy. So, but moreover, the study came out with some interesting results and policy recommendation. But my concern is on the robustness of the results. Let me start with the study period first, 1990 to 2017. Given the increase in energy use, especially renewable energy, over the last 7 years, exclusion of this period in the data set raised some concern. So the author confirmed in the paper the increase in energy use during this period and projects further increase in the medium and in the long term. The second issue I have with the paper is the definition of energy. At some point, the emphasis is on electricity. At other times, it is on energy. While it is true, electricity is called a secondary energy source. It is created by converting primary source of the energy, e.g. renewable energy. I have more concerns on the paper, but for the, because of time, let me just go to one key concerns that I have. I suspect the problem of indigeneity will impact on the hence with the results. Let me give an example. You have in the in trying to do some robustness check, the author came with multi-development index and among others. Here now, most of the indicators used will have issues of correlation. You have you have two indicators like access to electricity and total energy consumption. You have total energy consumption and usage. You have access to electricity and renewable. All these two variables may have issues of correlation. So lumping them in the same index may raise some kind of, so the test doing.
Thank you very much, Salami. I think these are a useful comment. I don't know if I need to give 1 minute after to the author. I think at the closing, if there is any maybe feedback, clarification based on comment. But I would like to do that at the end. Again, thank you very much to you for a good paper, and thank you to Salami for his review recommendation. You're here for that, seeing together how to come with the best product and also learning process. Then I would like to pass the floor now to Amadou, who is going to make observation on paper number 12. Amadou Bouli.
Okay, thank you, Abdullahi, for the floor. This is
Amadou, you have 3 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. It's also an interesting paper looking at the critical issue of energy transition and the role of financial development. And the innovations that the author is bringing is first to divide financial development by looking at financial institutions versus financial markets, and also using IV approach to test causality. And the paper has also many interesting policy implications and that were presented at the end. So the comments I'll be making for the author's consideration to see how the paper can be improved. I will also share a few, but I'll share the rest. So the first one, I was reading the paper on page 3. The paper states that unfortunately, financial markets in the region are usually underdeveloped, characterized by inadequate regulations and other things. So basically, the implication is that they might not be playing their role in Africa. So I was just wondering if that's the case, why would we expect an impact on energy transition? Or maybe there's a threshold effect. So you have to reach a certain level of efficiency so that you will see the impact of financial development on energy transition. Also, the title of the paper is for finance to deliver industrialization and clean energy transition. But the two questions that are analyzed, if I look at the second, the question is, how does the effect of financial development on renewable transition vary across least developed industrial countries and developing industrial countries? My thinking is that this question is not answering, is not looking at the link between industrialization and finance. It's only showing that there's a differential effect of finance on energy transition, which depends. So, not allow analyzing those that are providing the answer to the title. So I also had some questions regarding the conceptual framework. And I was wondering, because there, it's access to finance that leads to financial development, but it might be quite the contrary, at least the way it's presented. It might be because you're financially developed that many people have access to financial capital. So you might want to look at the link there. I was also wondering about energy transition, which is a process. I was thinking about seeing some type of evolution and also a definition of energy transition, because we tend to think that energy transition is from fossil to renewable. But if you talk to some people, for example, the African Union has an organization on nuclear technology. They will tell you that renewable cannot deliver on industrialization because it's not reliable enough. And people will also be talking about gas as a transition, not going directly from oil to renewable, but transitioning to gas. You might want to look at those. Okay, let me just go to the IV, because you said you tested it and it is valid. But usually what is really important regarding instrumental variable is the reader that it could be a valid IV. And there, when reading the paper, I didn't see that. You didn't convince me that is correlated to the dependent variable. No, that is correlated to the endogenous variable, but not to the dependent one. So you really need to establish that and convince before even going into doing that, because it's really difficult to establish the validity. Two small points. On page 9, you mentioned the level of corruption It's not in table 1. And the other one is just the country grouping. Developing industrial country is in line with UNIDO's categorization. You can go and check again. There's a slight difference because you have emerging industrial countries, then developing countries, and least countries. You do not bring categorization into the category. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Amaro. Sorry, Max, sometimes was not good, but I think you will get the essential of what you would like to say. And again, I would like to thank you very much, the presenter. I think the observation is really for you to see how you can improve a paper. And I think paper is something you can every time improve. Start by very good quality and we improve to go excellent quality. Now, thank you very much. What I would like to propose now, we have 3 papers left. I will ask colleagues, just please try to respect the 5 minutes. I think we are end of the day. Donc, the next paper is paper 13. Will be presented by Aselme Usigbe, if I am pronouncing correctly. OCBD. Okay. Thank you. You have 5 minutes for your presentation.
Okay, thank you for the flow. I just want to inform that this version of my presentation is an improved version of the paper I submitted to the conference. I'm Anselme Wesigbede. I'm PhD student at National School of Statistics and Applied Economics in Abidjan. And I write this paper with Didier Tatouchou, professor at University of Moncton in Canada. The title of my presentation is this: Energy Efficiency and Environmental Impact Mitigation, New Evidence from Middle and High-Income Countries. So let's start with our motivation. What is the problem? In this map, we can see that there exists some disparity in terms of CO2 emissions across countries. And this disparity is correlated with the level of development of the countries. We also know that energy is important for our countries, and energy is necessary for the industrialization process. But dirty energy is not environmental friendly. So we face a paradox between growth and environmental quality. What to choose? Is energy efficiency a solution to this paradox? What we call energy efficiency here is the GDP per unit of energy used during the production. So we have a 3 research questions. The first one is, what is the impact of energy efficiency and renewable energy on CO2 emission? Next, how this impact vary according to development levels of country? And third, how the impact varies over time. To the best of our knowledge, no work have theoretically demonstrated the relationship between energy efficiency and CO2. Although there exists several work in literature related to the link between energy efficiency and CO2, no study don't prove the non-linearity between this relationship. And our main contributions in this work is to theoretically demonstrate that there exists a non-linearity in the relationship between energy efficiency and the CO2 emissions. After that, we will make empirical tests and also a comparative analysis between country groups. So let's move to our model. We consider an economy with a representative firm that produces output using single input. Self-produced energy E through the production function Y equals FEZ, where F is our technology of production, E the energy input, and Z the other factor that affects production. We assume that F respects the general properties that there exists E underscore such that the marginal productivity of energy is increasing below E underscore and decreasing above E underscore. We clearly take into account in our model the externality. And we suppose that the final output produces pollution from greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, and the stock is denoted by DT and generates a cost C, where the damage function is increasing and converse. Since the representative firm don't take into account the negative externality of pollution in the decisions, there exists in our economy a regulator who internalize this negative externality by choosing a sequence of allocation of both energy and stock of pollution in order to maximize the discounted sum of the representative firm social profit. So in the first equation in the bracket, we have the social profit of the firm at each time T. We suppose that the price of output is normalized to 1 at each period. And the second equation represents the dynamic of the pollution stock in time. Phi here represents the portion of pollution decay in the atmosphere, and gamma represents the unit of pollution released in the atmosphere by each unit of energy. The optimal solution for an interior problem requires that in equation 3, that the optimal energy allocation at time T occurs where the marginal product equals the marginal social cost of emissions. And the equation 4 describes the dynamic behavior of the implicit price lambda T, which represents here the Lagrange multiplier associated with the constraint. Lambda T represents also the implicit price of pollution and is typically negative in our framework.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but let's try to conclude in 2 minutes.
Okay. So at the end of our theoretical model, we demonstrate that there exists a non-linearity in the relationship between energy efficiency and CO2 emission. And we demonstrate also that the pollution stock at time T depends on the previous pollution stock. So there exists some persistence in the model, the current and the previous exogenous factor. And to empirically test this relationship, we suppose first a quadratic relationship, and we use a panel of 116 countries. Our descriptive statistics show clearly this quadratic relationship. Also, we make a naive effect estimation, and we can show that the coefficient associated with energy efficiency is positive, and the coefficients associated with the square of energy efficiency is negative. That confirms our theoretical results. We also use GMM estimation to take into account the endogeneity in our model. And we also demonstrate the same results. We also have some robustness check. We use PTR model and PSTR model, and also we demonstrate that below a certain threshold of energy efficiency, the effect of energy efficiency is positive, and above that threshold, the effect becomes negative. So countries have to make efforts to exceed some threshold of the energy efficiency. We also make a dynamic, we also show a dynamic effect of the energy efficiency and renewable energy over time. And we can see that over time, countries make some efforts in order to reduce the environmental impact. As conclusion, we theoretically demonstrate that there exists some non-linearity in the relationship between energy efficiency and the CO2 emission. And we demonstrate that energy efficiency will only help reduce CO2 emissions if countries try to exceed a certain threshold of energy efficiency. So more investment in energy efficiency and renewable energy is needed. Technological progress remains the key to achieve this goal. So I'm the end of my presentations, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much to you. Thank you for trying to respect the time. Let's now move to paper 14, who will be presented by Joshua Afolabi. Joshua, you have the floor. Yeah, please, 5 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joshua Afolabi. I'm a PhD student at the University of Ibadan. And this paper I'll be presenting is titled Advancing Sustainable Industrial Development in Africa, the Role of Institutional Quality and Renewable Energy. This paper is co-authored by my supervisor, Professor M.A. Babatunde. So this is the outline of the presentation. Since I have a very short time, I will just run through this. Okay, as way of introduction, industrial development and environmental sustainability are critical for sustainable development. And because of this, they feature prominently in major international, regional, and national development plans. For instance, we have it features prominently in the Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Agreement, and the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. So, but the major problem here is that the quest for industrial development in Nigeria has triggered several climatic challenges that have various socio-economic and environmental consequences. Okay, and this is because production in the industrial sector is highly energy intensive, and because of this, Africa use most of the energy used in Africa is mostly fossil fuel. And of course, this contributes majorly to carbon emissions and other greenhouse gases. So despite Africa's average ecological footprint production, the continent faces various health and environmental risks. And this calls for immediate and prompt actions. So the observed trade-off between industrial development and environmental sustainability suggests the need to take strategic actions. And responsible and sustainable industrial practices driven by strong institutional quality present this kind of opportunity. And just like the UNIDO asserted that the possibility of simultaneously achieving sustained industrial growth and environmental sustainability is possible. And they did this in their framework of the sustainable industrial development, where they talked about having industrial growth with economic environmental sustainability. All right, so in view of this study seeks to look at these two objectives. The first is to analyze the individual impact of institutional quality and renewable energy on sustainable industrial development in Africa. And the second is also to analyze the interactive effect of these two key variables in influencing sustainable industrial development in Africa. So I'll skip the literature review because of time. Data was obtained from World Development Indicator, from World Governance Indicator, and from Miller et al. 2023. And the study covered 2000 to 2021, and the feasible generalized least square, as well as the panel correlated standard error method were used to estimate the equation. The reason for this is these two estimators account for cross-sectional dependence. Just like we know that many African countries are interconnected, we will talk about the AFCFTA, and this is because of that cross-sectional dependence. So we need to use models that account for this cross-sectional dependence to analyze our data. So we have this. Okay, this is the description of the data and the variable. Let me go to. Okay, we sampled 48 countries, like listed here, and then these are some of the stylized facts. So we saw that industrial development, industrial value added has been increasing in the continent, as well as ecological footprint. And we see that as this graph shows a positive relationship between industrial development, industrial value added, and ecological footprint, meaning that as industrialization is gaining, having more pace in Africa, ecological footprint, environmental consequences are also increasing. So we also looked at the relationship between institutional quality and ecological footprints. And like we have seen from here, we see that the relationship is not very clear. It's not too clear from here, but we see that more of many African countries are still on the left-hand side of this, showing that ecological footprint is somehow still low in the continent. All right, so we move now to the relationship between renewable energy consumption and ecological footprint. And of course, this shows that there is an inverse relationship between them. And we have more African countries on the edge again, and just a few outliers on these other parts, where we have Nigeria, we have South Africa leading the way in renewable energy consumption. So given this, we now move to our results and discussions, where we have the correlation analysis that shows the relationship among our variables of interest. We saw that renewable energy has a positive relationship with ecological footprint, meaning as renewable energy increases, ecological footprint increases. Then we also have that for the institutional quality, which are our key variables of interest. Now we move to the estimates of our feasible generalized least square, where we have, we see from here that in those, okay, this is for the first objective, where we see that renewable energy has a negative impact on ecological footprint, meaning that as we have more renewable energy, then ecological footprint will decline, meaning that environmental quality will improve. Okay, so we now move to the institutional quality, which are, of course, we are looking at our key variables. Institutional quality has a positive relationship. And we see that we use different dimensions of the institutional quality. We have control of corruption, government effectiveness, political stability, regulatory quality, rule of law, and then voice and accountability. All of these show, most of these show positive relationship with ecological footprints. Now to look at the moderating effects, we generate these results, and these are what are more important to us, the interactive variables. So we see that for all the interactive variables, they are positive, and they show that institutional quality can help in increasing environmental quality in the continent. So we need to do more on environmental quality. Okay, we also looked at the moderating effect of renewable energy on the industry environment nexus. And this is what we find again for the interactive effect. We said that it is positive, meaning that if we improve renewable energy in the renewable energy consumption in the continent, we have more improved environmental quality. So we did a sensitivity analysis using the panel correlated standard error model, and it shows a similar result. And this shows that our result is
yeah, you have 1 minute.
Okay, our result is robust, and they are fit for policy recommendation. So to now look at the conclusion of the conclusion is that Africa has been gaining pace in industrialization, but the continent is yet to achieve sustainable industrial development. We also found that renewable energy offers a golden opportunity to engender sustainable industrial development in the continent. Also, institutional quality in Africa needs to be strengthened to drive sustainable industrial development. So, these are the recommendations we have from this study. And the first is that sustainable industrial practices, such as the use of modern technology and renewable energy sources, among other green practices, should be integrated into industrial activities in the continent. We also need to formulate and implement policies aimed at strengthening institutional quality without compromising environmental quality to drive sustainable industrial development in the continent. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much to you. Thank you. Now we are moving to the last paper, paper number 15, who will be presented by Koulibaly Yakuba. Yakuba, you have the floor. And we have 5 minutes, if so sharp, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will do my presentation in French.
No, that's fine, colleague. Just take your headphone. Headset, sorry. For Yakuba is going to make his presentation in French. Ok, vous avez la parole.
Mais merci à tous. Je suis Yakuba Koulibaly. Thank you. Donc, je suis Yakuba Koulibaly. Actuellement, je suis à UNECA, précisément à la division sport. Et donc, je suis doctorant en 3e année au laboratoire d'économie d'Orléans et en co-direction avec l'Université Clermont-Auvergne. Ce soir, le papier que je vais vous présenter, en fait, ça porte sur un aspect de la technologie financière, tout précisément le mobile money. Et donc, l'adoption du mobile money sur la soutenabilité environnementale dans les pays africains. Ce qu'il faut retenir, c'est que l'adoption du mobile money dans les pays africains, en fait, c'était plus précisément pour, n'est-ce pas, permettre aux personnes qui étaient exclues du système financier, du système bancaire traditionnel, d'être incluses, n'est-ce pas, financièrement. Et donc, après quelques années d'adoption, on a vu que l'effet s'est fait ressentir si bien au plan microéconomie et aussi au plan macroéconomie. Depuis l'année 2017, le Kenya a adopté, n'est-ce pas, le mobile money. Et donc, les statistiques des GSMA nous montrent que plusieurs personnes, en fait, se sont intéressées n'est-ce pas, à ces transactions de mobile money. Et donc, on a une estimation d'environ 9 millions d'agences mobile money qui a été créées et environ 5 millions d'agences actives qui existent aujourd'hui dans les pays africains. Et donc, on trouve une estimation d'environ 1 milliard de comptes et parmi ces 1 milliard de comptes, il y a 740 000 comptes actifs et ce qui nous donne une estimation de 2 milliards, n'est-ce pas, de transactions quotidiennes. Et donc, le constat, c'est que dans les pays africains, on a constaté qu'entre l'année 2016 et l'année 2017, le nombre de comptes, en fait, comptes actifs de mobile money a augmenté d'environ 21%. Et donc, les académiciens se sont intéressés bien évidemment à l'estimation de l'impact, n'est-ce pas, de cette nouvelle technologie financière. Et certaines études ont montré que, en fait, l'adoption du mobile money permettait de réduire la pauvreté et augmentait, n'est-ce pas, l'épargne des ménages, permettait d'augmenter, n'est-ce pas, les dépenses de consommation. Et ça permettait également d'accroître la mobilisation des ressources, les ressources budgétaires de l'État. Et également, ça permettait à certaines personnes qui étaient dans les zones, en fait, les zones à risque, donc les zones avec une forte impact sur le changement climatique, ça leur permettait en fait d'être épargnés, n'est-ce pas, de ces chocs climatiques. Alors, nous sommes partis du constat du fait que si l'adoption du mobile money permettait en fait d'accroître la consommation, Ce qui voudrait dire que cette consommation, étant donné que les pays africains n'ont pas véritablement reçu les politiques de transition énergétique, cette consommation-là, elle est très fossile. Donc, le mobile money, par la consommation des ménages, peut affecter la soutenabilité environnementale. C'est le premier point. Et le deuxième point, c'est que, en fait, l'adoption du mobile money, c'est un aspect de la technologie financière. Et cet aspect de la technologie financière, là, n'est-ce pas, va en fait booster la demande, n'est-ce pas, des ressources stratégiques pour pouvoir permettre la fabrication peut-être des téléphones portables, pour pouvoir utiliser, n'est-ce pas, le mobile money. Donc, cela pourra endommager, n'est-ce pas, l'environnement. Et le troisième problème, c'est que, vu que certaines études ont montré que l'adoption du mobile money permettait, par le biais de la consommation, par le biais des remittances, les transferts des fonds des migrants qu'on envoie en fait à des bénéficiaires, et donc la consommation aussi, les dépenses de santé, etc., ça va booster en fait la croissance. Mais étant donné que les pays africains n'ont pas encore réussi, n'est-ce pas, les transitions énergétiques, cette croissance-là, elle est très fossile. Donc, on peut s'interroger si, n'est-ce pas, l'adoption du mobile money n'a pas d'impact sur la soutenabilité environnementale. Ça, c'est notre question de recherche. Et ici, je vous présente en fait cette carte des pays africains, l'émission des CO2 depuis les années 60 jusqu'à l'année 2020. Et on constate que, en fait, l'augmentation de l'émission des CO2 a commencé à partir des années 90. Et cette augmentation, elle est très exponentielle. Ainsi que les émissions de gaz à effet de serre. Alors, je vous présente ici ce graphique-là qui présente, en fait, si vous voulez, à ma gauche, en fait, la courbe, n'est-ce pas, de l'émission de gaz à effet de serre et de CO2 des pays qui ont adopté le mobile money, et à droite, les pays qui n'ont pas adopté le mobile money. Et comparativement, quand on regarde, on se rend compte que les pays qui ont adopté, en fait, le mobile money ont un niveau d'émissions très élevées par rapport aux pays qui n'ont pas adopté. Donc, systématiquement, il y a un souci, il y a un problème à se poser. Et donc, pour répondre, en fait, la question, c'est de savoir est-ce que véritablement l'adoption du mobile money a un effet significatif sur la soutenabilité environnementale à travers les émissions de gaz à effet de serre et de CO2. Donc, pour y arriver, nous avons collecté, en fait, les données sur le mobile money. C'est une variable d'AMI qui prend la valeur 1 sur le pays qui a adopté la mesure, donc la politique, 0 sur le pays qui n'a pas adopté. Et notre variable dépendante, on a deux variables dépendantes, les émissions de gaz à effet de serre, CO2, et on a pris en fait des variables de contrôle telles que les dépenses de consommation finale, la dette publique, on a pris aussi la rente des ressources naturelles, le PIB par tête, et la consommation des ménages, et puis les recettes publiques et l'ouverture commerciale. Alors, la méthodologie que nous avons adoptée, c'est une méthodologie assez robuste du nom de entropy balancing qui en fait permet de minimiser en fait les biais de sélection dans l'adoption du mobile money qui elle-même elle est endogène. Alors, en guise de robustesse, nous avons adopté une autre méthodologie d'estimation d'impact, PSM, IV, et puis les GMM, et puis comment on appelle ça, les moments d'ordre 2. Alors, en termes de résultats, le premier résultat que nous présentons ici, c'est l'impact, n'est-ce pas, du mobile money sur les émissions de gaz à effet de serre. Alors, dans nos différentes spécifications, nous nous rendons compte qu'en fait, l'adoption du mobile money a un impact positif, significatif sur, n'est-ce pas, les émissions de gaz à effet de serre. Et ça, c'est le tableau, en fait, du résultat sur l'émission de CO2. On trouve également un effet positif, significatif, n'est-ce pas, de l'émission de gaz à effet de serre. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'il faut retenir en termes de... Je ne vais pas présenter les résultats des robustesses compte tenu du temps. Ce qu'il faut retenir de façon globale, c'est que, en fait, quand on prend l'adoption du mobile money elle-même, on a un effet positif, n'est-ce pas, de l'adoption du mobile money sur l'émission de gaz à effet de serre et de CO2. Cependant, lorsqu'on essaie de faire en fait les tests d'hétérogénéité, on se rend compte qu'en fait, cet effet-là dépend du type de transaction du mobile money. Et aussi, ça dépend de certains facteurs structurels et institutionnels, tels que en fait, le taux d'inflation, la consommation d'énergie renouvelable et l'augmentation en fait, de la population rurale, les transferts des fonds des migrants, ainsi que l'état de droit. Après cela, qu'est-ce que nous avons fait?
Reculez les 2 minutes, please.
Okay. Après cela, qu'est-ce que nous avons fait? Nous avons en fait essayé d'analyser les canaux de transmission par lesquels n'est-ce pas, l'adoption du mobile money peut affecter la soutenabilité environnementale. Et en fait, les résultats nous montrent que l'adoption du mobile money affecte la soutenabilité environnementale en passant par la consommation d'énergie fossile, n'est-ce pas, la valeur, comment on appelle ça, la valeur ajoutée agricole et aussi le développement financier. Et pour terminer, en fait, en termes de recommandations, en fait, ce que nous pouvons dire, c'est que l'adoption du mobile money elle-même en soi n'est pas une mauvaise chose. Mais le problème qui se pose, c'est que lorsque vous adoptez en fait le mobile money et que les gens se mettent à utiliser, et cela permet bien évidemment d'augmenter la consommation, l'épargne, ça permet d'accroître la croissance économique. Mais ce qui se passe, c'est que vu que votre économie n'est pas en fait une économie verte, donc à un moment donné, tout ce qui est consommé à travers, n'est-ce pas, l'utilisation de ces mobile money-là sera, n'est-ce pas, fossile. Donc, ce qu'il faut faire, il faudrait, n'est-ce pas, miser, sinon mettre l'accent sur l'investissement dans la transition énergétique à travers les énergies vertes, etc. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much again, Koulibaly. I think now we are going to ask quickly the three discussants. Colleague, please try to make your comment in, let's say, two to 3 minutes, not more. I understand there is another session just after us or event. We are trying to conclude in 10 minutes. Donc, the paper number 13 will be comment by Sidwell Ove from African Development Bank. Sidwell, I'll give him a mic.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to review and discuss this paper. First of all, I would like to say, I think as the author has acknowledged that they have revised the paper, and apparently what he presented is a completely new version, is a revised version, and it's quite different from the paper he submitted. The difference is mostly in terms of, I think the set of countries he studied. For the paper he submitted, he studied sub-Saharan African countries, but for the paper he presented, he studied about 121 countries around the world. So my comments will focus on the paper which I've reviewed. I hope the comments will be very useful, even in updating and revising the current paper which he has. First of all, I would like to say congratulations to the authors on the excellent, informative and well-written paper. The paper really addressed a very important and pertinent topical issue, which many policymakers in Africa are really grappling with. That is the issue of energy efficiency, renewable energy, and their roles in climate action. Indeed, increasing energy efficiency is recognized as the quickest and least costly way of addressing energy security, environmental, climate, and economic challenges. And it is also an important aspect in terms of climate targets related to the Paris Agreement. So the paper really makes a very important contribution to literature by delving into this discourse. Of course, the main result is that energy efficiency and the use of renewable energy are beneficial for the environment and the reduction of carbon emissions. I just want to point a few things related to the methodology which the author used. First of all, the author construct an energy efficiency indices using the data involvement analysis and also the stochastic frontier approach. And then they use this index to undertake the estimations, which were based on the pooled mean group estimator. Okay, so the point I just want to highlight is that the estimator which you used, which is the pooled mean group estimator, could be a relevant one, but there is no clear motivation why that indicator was used among other even more robust indicators like the system GMM, the instrumental variables and so forth. There is also need to elaborate a bit more on the descriptive analysis and the stylized facts about energy efficiency and renewable energy and carbon emissions in Africa to bring that empirical evidence of what we really see on the ground. I think this will help to flesh out the key mechanisms upon which energy efficiency and the renewable energy use can impact carbon emissions. The other aspect is that in terms of the results, of course, most of the results indicate that improving energy efficiency will help to improve the environment. But for some countries, it was actually found that improving energy efficiency worsens the environment. There was no clear explanation for some of those results. For example, the case of Zimbabwe and Botswana. So it is important to try to explain why those anomalies were found in the results. Of course, the author attempted to use the explanation of the rebound effect, but it was not really explained. So we encourage the authors to relook at that and try to explain more. Let me end by highlighting that the authors, of course, produced some policy recommendations, but there are some suggestions I wanted to make. I think because of time, I will not explain them, but I will share with them with the authors. I also encourage the authors, if they like, they could share the revised paper which they presented. I would be happy to provide more comments based on that paper as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sylvain, for your review and this useful comment. Now I will pass the floor to Alexander Coupoin, who is going to make a comment on paper number 14. Alexander, you have the floor.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to start by congratulate Joshua and his co-author for this very interesting paper. So, the paper tried to shed some light on the link between environmental quality and industrial development by also looking at the role of institutional quality and renewable energy. So this is, I think this is the main contribution of the paper, just to highlight the role played by institutional quality. And this paper is very interesting, as we know we are trying to make the process of African industrialization more sustainable. So I think, just want to congratulate the author for choosing this very nice paper. And the paper uses a sophisticated econometric framework, which is very good. And yeah, there are some issues that we are going to look at, but it's very, very good. And it is a panel fixed effect with a country and a time fixed effect. In terms of findings, let's just summarize the finding into 3 points. So the first, result from the paper is that, Africa is yet to achieve sustainable industrial development because of the link between environmental quality and industrial development. And the second result is about the institution. So the paper said that work institution is one of the obstacles for African countries to achieve sustainable industrialization. And the last one is about renewable energy, which is seem to play a positive factor for African countries. Yes, paper is very nice, and as we are here to improve a paper, let's just go straight to the point that can improve a paper. So the first one is about the motivation of the paper itself. So at some point it said that Africa, Africa countries, were constantly faced. So to strike, a balance between, industrialization and being environmentally sustainable. And I think that is not very true. This is a very new topic. So I think, the author need to soften a little bit the language in the motivation. And very quickly, another thing also about the motivation, it is, the way you introduce the institution, to the paper, is, there's a way to improve that, I think also. And yes, in terms of the findings, you say that, the institution play an important role. But when you look at the result, you use 5 institution measures, and only 2 of them, have been found significant, and 3 of them no. So I think there is a way also to soften a little bit the language, because if this depends, very much on the index that you use. And let's very quickly go to some of the point that you can use to improve the paper. In terms of a econometric framework, you use the IPAT, theory, and the way it's used here, it's not very clear. So you start from the basic theory of the IPAT, and then you go to your estimated equations, but there is a big gap. Just as an example, if you look at the IPAT, theory, there's no industrial index in the framework, but you are introducing that index in your framework, and there's no link between those 2 frameworks. I think the paper needs also to clarify that. And in terms also of how you present your results, I know probably it is a new strategy. I'm a bit old. Let's say that usually when you present your economic result, estimation that estimate result that are significant at 1% level, we usually put 3 stars, and 2 stars for 5, and 1 star for that 10%. But you did in the inverse way. And when you look at your paper, your result, I was struck by seeing only 1 star, and you are and just looking at the fund that you are selling, it seemed that there was there is a visual issue here. So just to reverse your results, we do for the usual paper. And very quickly, let me go to the choice of your estimator here. In the paper, you say that you use your estimator because some of the paper also use that estimator. But I think there is a way to look at your data, look at if there is any persistence in your data, if there is a stationary issue in your data, because if all those things are in your data, I don't think that what the estimator that you use is the most suitable one that you have to use. So you need to look at your data. And the question of endogeneity is is omitted in the paper, and I think it is something that we need to also look at very quickly. Chair, one thing also, if you look at your your introduction, you will see that the sample that you say that you use is different from what you can see from your table and your result. Sometimes you say that it's from 20,000 to 2021, and sometimes it's 1990 to 2021. So there is a way to consolidate that. And I think I will stop here. I will just share the remaining comment that I have. say that, this is a very nice paper, and if the paper has a huge potential. Thank you so much.
Alexander, and thank you. I think your observations are very clear, and as I say, we are here to be able now to discuss together, to be able to improve quality document. The selection process is very rigorous, but if you are here, meaning that already your paper, as you say at the end, is very good. Thank you, Alexander. Now, the last paper number 15, will be commented by Koyane Subutso, if I'm pronouncing correctly your name. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Hello. Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Nkwanyan Sibuzo, as you rightly indicated. I'm just going to be quick and say, first of all, let me congratulate the author. The paper is very well structured. And for me, I think there is quite a balance in terms of the literature review that you've done, in terms of showing both the positive side of mobile money as well as the side that you wanted to explore, which is mobile money leading to the environmental unsustainability or environmental degradation. There is just maybe a few just editorials, mostly. At times I pick some French in the so we will look at that. I have made some comments here. So in terms of I think the link through which, like the transmission mechanisms as you spoke about, they would suggest to me that it may be ideal that we do some sort of correlation analysis between the variables as well as the causality analysis, because there is, in as much as the method that you selected already anyway addresses the issue of endogeneity, I think there's a need to try and do those to be able to be sure that we are addressing the issues. The robustness checks that you have done, I think you did quite a number, so to try and ensure that the results are not sensitive to changes in so I appreciate that as well. What else? Yeah, I think all in all, Chair, for me the paper is very well structured, and the approach is that has been used seems to be a very innovative one, and we'll just encourage and then congratulate the author. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for your review, comment, and observation. I think this is really useful. I think we will not have time to go back to the presenter, but I just would like to really thank you very much for the excellent work. And also, you need to continue to do. This is important for our African Development Bank. Knowledge, innovation is what we need. It's what we are here every year. And I think definitively what we hear today is excellent paper, 5 excellent paper. And I really would like to thank you on behalf of the 3 institutions. And also thank you very much, colleague, who take time to review and make observation, recommendation. And feel free to continue this engagement with them. And I think this also, we are here again for 2 more days. And even after that, yes, we can continue to have interaction with the team in general, sorry, and in particular, the colleague who make observation on your paper. Donc, I would like to thank you very much, the people here for your presence. I think the day was long, but I think definitively, I think very useful. Donc, I don't know if there is any housekeeping announcement, Salami, or my brother there for colleagues. All right, thank you very much, and thank you.